Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving back into the story of Rouge Xuan Nu and Xilan as their journey takes them to the shores of Japan, but they aren't the only ones on the move. Back in the Winged Realm, Li Jing receives a report from a secret protector he assigned to Rouge. He learns of her destination and instantly grows uneasy. He suspects they're after the legendary divine herb. Driven by a cold determination, he decides he must go to Japan himself and bring Rouge and Xuan Nu back. His subordinates are hesitant, reminding him that Xuan Nu is carrying the young prince. But Li Jing's response is chilling. With a face like stone, he declares, "I have no young prince. My child died at birth." The words hang in the air, heavy with unspoken grief and bitterness, as he prepares for his journey, leaving no room for argument. Meanwhile, our trio arrives in Japan. Night has fallen, so they're forced to make camp, with the plan to find the herb the next day. The quiet of the evening provides a moment for honesty. Rouge decides to reveal her true identity to Xilan, telling him she's not just an ordinary person but a member of the Winged Clan. Of course, Xilan already knew this, but he plays along, feigning surprise. He's been hiding his own secret, after all. Over the past few days, Rouge had her own suspicions. She sensed that Xilan was far more than a simple constable. He has a strength and an aura about him that just don't fit. Xilan, however, can't bring himself to reveal that he's from the Celestial Clan. Not yet. He promises to tell her the whole truth after they retrieve the divine herb. He knows that what comes next will be incredibly dangerous, and perhaps this is his last chance. Taking a deep breath, Xilan musters all his courage. He looks at Rouge and tells her plainly that he likes her and wants to know how she feels. Rouge is completely taken aback by this sudden confession. The truth is, she's had feelings for Xilan for a long time, but with everything happening, the timing feels impossible. She hesitates, unable to give him the clear answer he's hoping for. The air between them is thick with unspoken emotions as they rest before the perilous day ahead.
The next morning, they arrive at a mysterious cave. This is the place.
Legend says the Father God himself sealed for ancient, ferocious beasts inside, along with the divine herb, all behind a powerful celestial barrier. Rouge, feeling the weight of responsibility, plans to go in alone. She entrusts Xuan Nu to Xilan's care, telling them to wait at the entrance. Her instructions are stark. If she hasn't returned by nightfall, they must leave without her. But Xilan can't stand the thought of her facing such danger by herself. He refuses to let her go alone and follows her into the dark maw of the cave. Xuan Nu, however, is consumed by her own thoughts. She simply doesn't believe Rouge would risk her own life for Xuan Nu's child. Convinced that she must be the one to secure the herb, no matter the cost, she too ignores the warning and follows them into the cave. 3 people, 3 different motivations, all walking into the same trap. Xuan Nu carefully entered the cave, only to discover Xilan and Xuan Nu following behind. She anxiously asked them why they had come in. Xilan, with great spirit, replied that he was a man, and there was no reason for a woman to put herself in danger. However, the sound of their conversation still alerted the 4 divine beasts. These ancient beasts had inherited half of the divine power from the Father God and were extremely ferocious. Yanzi and Xilan were no match for them. Yanza was thrown to the ground and fainted. She heard Xilan introduce himself while fighting the divine beasts, saying that he was the 16th disciple of Mo Yuan of Kunlun Mountain, the immortal Xilan. Xilan's magical power was no match for the 4 divine beasts. It was like throwing an egg against a rock, utterly ineffective. In the nick of time, Lang arrived and led the Winged Realm to fight the 4 beasts out of the cave and settled her in. Yahua then appeared at the cave entrance and saw that both Yanzi and Xilan were seriously injured. Yahua frowned and asked
Xilan who had startled the divine beast in the cave.
Xilan reported to the Crown Prince that it was the Winged Lord and Winged Queen of the Winged Realm in the cave. Yahua was worried that the Winged Realm was plotting to steal the divine herb. After setting up a magical barrier for Xilan and Yanzi, he flashed into the cave.
Li Jing was battling for ferocious beasts inside the cave when the Hua appeared, also fighting them with his sword.
Li Jing tried to take Xuan Nu out, but Xuan Nu's obsession was too strong, and she refused to leave the cave no matter what. The Hua fought fiercely against the 4 divine beasts, expending much of his cultivation. In the end, he slew 3 of them, while the remaining Taudi escaped and disappeared. The Hua picked a divine herb from the cliff and put it in his sleeve, then used his magic to destroy the rest.
The Hua remained unmoved after hearing this.
Li Jing asked awkwardly, since the Hua and a Yin are already engaged, why is it necessary to awaken Mo Yuan? The Hua replied calmly, awakening Mo Yuan is Qian, Qian's long-cherished wish for 70,000 years. After saying this, the Hua turned and left. On Kunlun Mountain, cranes cried out in unison. The second senior brother, who was responsible for feeding the cranes, was puzzled by this sight. He recalled that such a scene had only occurred during the great battle between their master, Mo Yuan, and Qing Kang. He wondered what was happening today. Returning from the cranes, he saw Crown Prince, the Hua, severely injured, his right arm missing, and utterly weakened as he appeared at the palace gate. The Hua, forcing himself to stay upright, asked to borrow the alchemy furnace from his second senior brother. The Hua placed the divine herb he had obtained into the furnace and, using all his cultivation, refined it into a pill. His magical power exhausted, the Hua thought this was probably the last thing he could do for Qian. Jian woke up early in the morning and was stretching when he stepped out of his room to find the Hua covered in wounds in the peach grove. Upon seeing Jian, the Hua, still unconscious, handed him the pills he was holding before falling into a deep sleep. The heavenly prince, severely injured, and with his right arm severed, hadn't returned to the heavenly palace but instead come to this 10-mile peach grove.
Jian deduced that there must be something he could unlet the 9 heavens and the heavenly emperor know.
It seemed that what it was would only be known when the Hua awoke. Jian specially went to the lotus pond to retrieve a late-blooming lotus root for the Hua, intending to use it to make a prosthetic arm. Bai Zuan wondered if it could even wield a sword. Jian sighed, saying that it wouldn't even be able to move, let alone wield a sword. It was just for show. He couldn't let the dignified heavenly prince appear in public in this state. The Hua was seriously injured and fell into a coma. Bai Qian stayed by Dayang's side without sleep. Bai Qian stayed up for 3 days and nights without sleep, guarding the soul-binding lamp, and finally, successfully bound Mo Yuan's primordial twin brother, the high god, Bai Yi, suddenly arrived in the West Sea. Dai Feng brought Bai Yi to Bai Qian, and Bai Yi asked Dai Feng if it was true that the West Sea Lord had once issued a proclamation throughout the 4 seas and 8 wastes, saying that anyone who could cure the eldest prince and had a daughter could marry her to the West Sea. Dai Feng, not understanding the meaning of the proclamation, replied that it was true. Upon hearing this, Bai Yi was overjoyed and said, "Now that Bai Qian has cured your eldest brother, can my daughter Feng Jiu be married into your Western Sea?" Bai Qian and Dai Feng were both shocked to hear this. Starts in Kunlun Mountain and had never been a romantic person. His elder brother had been bedridden for many years, so neither of them was a good match for Princess Feng Jiu. At this point, Dai Feng gave Bai Yi a suggestion. Why not have the talented young men from all over the world send out their invitations? That way, they could find a perfect husband for Feng Jiu from among thousands. The emperor arrived alone at the mortal palace, and unconsciously wandered to the lotus courtyard where Feng Jiu had once lived as consort Chun. In a daze, he saw Feng Jiu smiling and walking towards him. After returning to the heavenly palace, Siming told Dong Hua about Bai Yi's efforts to find a husband for Princess Feng Jiu throughout the 4 seas and 8 deserts. Dong Hua was immediately displeased and handed a box to Siming to give to Feng Jiu. When Siming opened the box, he found it contained the arrow that Feng Jiu had blocked for the emperor. The emperor pretended to be calm and asked Siming to tell Feng Jiu that she had also saved his life that day, and that their past favors were now even. Feng Jiu and Bai Qian were leisurely enjoying themselves in the back garden of the West Sea when young talents from all corners of the world arrived one after another, each bringing their own treasures to curry favor with Feng Jie. Jiu was worrying about how to repay these favors when Ming came to the West Sea to find her. Ming first congratulated
Feng Jiu.
saying that after 300 years, she had finally repaid this debt of gratitude. Feng Jiu was heartbroken, muttering to herself, "Yes, now that this debt of gratitude is repaid, I have no further connection with the 9 heavens."
Ming then presented Feng Jiu with the arrow, along with the words the emperor had entrusted to him.
Looking at the arrow, Feng Jiu couldn't help but recall the vow Deng Hua had made to her when he was emperor. Now, the emperor had reverted to his cold and aloof demeanor from the 9 heavens. And Feng Jiu was filled with immense sorrow. Reflecting on the past, Feng Jiu returned to the thatched hut where she and the emperor had once hidden from pursuers. Unexpectedly, she encountered the emperor there. He adopted a cold, aloof demeanor, telling Feng Jiu, "Mortal world." As the emperor turned to leave, Feng Jiu produced the arrowhead, tearfully asking if he remembered what she had said when she took the arrow for him. The emperor, with his back to Feng Jiu, concealing his emotions, coldly told her that he remembered, but they were not mortals. Some things, if left unresolved, would lead to chaos. With that, he resolutely departed. The Hua slept for some time in the peach grove, finally waking up under Xian's care. The first thing the Hua did upon waking was ask Xian and Bai Zuan if Qian was still in the Western Sea. Bai Zuan calculated and told the Hua that it had been exactly 3 days and 3 nights. The Hua handed the elixir to Xian, asking him to give it to Qian, explaining that it was made from a divine herb that Qian had obtained, refined using his own cultivation. Qian asked, puzzled why he hadn't told Bai Qian since she needed to hurry. The Hua smiled faintly, explaining that Qian disliked owing favors. If he told her that he had lost his right arm because of the divine herb and used his own cultivation to refine the elixir, it might distract her when saving Mo Yuan. Therefore, it was better not to tell her. Looking at the Hua's restrained nature, Jian felt a sense of awe. Jian then asked the Hua if he had considered that if Mo Yuan truly awakened, the Eastern Emperor Bel might not be able to seal Qing Kang anymore, and what would become of the world then? Although severely injured, the Hua's gaze remained piercing, as he firmly told Jian that if Qing Kang were to break free and take the entire world with him, someone would appear to protect the 8 desolations and restrain him. 70,000 years ago, Mo Yuan sacrificed his primordial spirit to the Eastern Emperor Bel. 300 years ago, Qian risked her life to protect him. Someone else would surely do the same. Jian knew that the others the Hua spoke of were himself. After speaking, the Hua returned to the heavenly palace to report. Bai Zuan, seeing the Hua's lonely figure, wanted to go forward and tell him about Bai Qian's feelings for him. But Jian stopped him, telling him that the beginning and end of a relationship have their own cause and effect. The Hua forced himself to return to the heavenly palace, already extremely weak. He couldn't let Ollie see him like this, so he ordered someone to tell Cheng Yu to take Ollie to the Lingshan Dharma Assembly for a few days. The sugarcane there was delicious, and Ailey would definitely go. After giving Ollie his instructions, the Hua ordered someone to report back to the Heavenly Emperor on his behalf. Although he had killed 4 divine beasts and destroyed all the divine herbs, he had also exhausted his life's cultivation. He instructed people not to mention to anyone that he had been to the 10-mile peach blossom forest. After giving these instructions, the UAA lost consciousness. Bai Qian finally slept soundly for several days. Jian couldn't bear to wake her and waited for her in the main hall for 2 days. Jian handed Bai Qian the pill, and Bai Qian, thinking that Jian had used his own cultivation to refine it, was deeply moved. She asked if Xian had been injured while retrieving the divine herb, recalling that even the Fox Emperor himself had returned with injuries. Xian, entrusted by the Hua, changed the subject,
saying that his father had raised him, and he should help repay that kindness if he could.
Bai Qian was grateful for Xian's kindness, and Xian felt guilty. He instructed Bai Qian to give the pill to Dai Yong when he felt better, and then to take good care of him for a few more days before hurriedly leaving. After leaving the Western Sea, Jian went straight to the Fox Cave and he found me, Jiu, and asked him to go to the Winged Realm
Master for the past 70,000 years without stopping.
and finding her now was already the greatest blessing. Dai Feng encouraged Bai Qian to cheer up, saying that they would definitely be able to wait for their master to return to Kunlun Mountain had saved Li Jingge's life a few days ago. Knowing that Bai Qian disliked owing favors, he assured her that the Jade Soul wasn't a him. The last important thing was that the elixir was rich in immortal energy. Jian instructed Bai Qian to place the Jade Soul on Dai Yang, and that Dai Yang would wake up in 3 days. Bai Qian was anxious to save Mo Yuan, and did untab the energy to find out the details. So she did, as Jian instructed for now. We'll have to find out next time. Thanks so much for watching. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter. See you in the next video!